Hello all and welcome back. In the previous video, I spoke to you about page orientation, scaling, paper size, print quality, and other important aspects of page setup. In this video, which is the second video of a three-part video, I'm going to cover margins and other aspects of page setup. So let's directly get into it without wasting any more time. Now let's check out the next tab, which is margins. As you can see, there are 6 margins that you can set. Top margin, left margin, right margin, bottom margin, head margin, and footer margin. The properties that you need to tweak these margins are page setup.top margin, page setup.left margin, and so on as shown in this image. There's a 7th property which you can tweak as well. It is page setup.align margins header footer. You can use this property to align the header and the footer with the general right and left page margins. I will not talk about this right now, but I'll talk about this when we visit the header and footer tabs and when I talk about this last checkbox. Okay, so we'll park this for a moment. Margins are set or returned in points. If you want to use inches or centimeters, use the Application.InchesToPoints or Application.CentimetersToPoint method. So if you specify 1 as the top margin, then Excel will set it as 1 centimeter, but it will store it as points. I will talk about this in a short while. Now let's go back and check the code in module 3. Here I've declared my worksheet variable and I'm setting it to sheet 1. Here I'm setting the top, left, right, and bottom margins. Now this is interesting, so pay attention. Here I'm telling VBA that I want to set the margin as 1 centimeter, 0.5 centimeter, 0.5 centimeter, and 1 centimeter. So this part, 1 and 0.5, is for my understanding. And this part, Application.CentimetersToPoints, is for VBA to understand. Now, 1 centimeter is approximately about 28.34 points. You can yourself check that. Go to the immediate window and type Application.CentimetersToPoints. I'm going to copy this entire thing and I'll paste it here and I'll press the enter key. See, it's 28.34645666 blah blah blah. So about 28.34 points. So you can actually write the above line as this and it will still work. So like I said, this part is for my understanding and this part is for VBA to understand, and it uses Application.CentimetersToPoints to arrive at this value. Let's test this. So I'm going to run this right now, but before I do that, let's go and check what are the current margins that we have so that we can notice the new values. Currently it is 1.9, 1.8, 1.9 and 1.8. Okay, so we are changing top and bottom to 1 and left and right to 0.5. Let's check whether it works or not. So notice here I'm using 28.34 and here I'm using 1. This and this are the same. Similarly, if you wish, you can also set the margins using Application.InchesToPoints. Now let's try and change the header and footer margins using Application.InchesToPoints. So we'll use inches instead of centimeters to set our header and footer margins. Let's go back to the VBA code. I'm going to uncomment these two. 1 inch is about 2.5 centimeters. So when I run this, the header and footer margin should be set as 2.5. Let's check it out. So when I go back, and if I go back to page layout, page setup, there you go. 2.5 header, 2.5 footer. Let's go back to the code for a moment. Now this part, which is .align margins header footer, is something which I will discuss when I talk about the next tab, which is header and footer. So I will not uncomment this. So I'll just keep this commented for the time being. The last section on that tab is center on page, which is this. Now notice what happens when I check each of them. The first one is horizontally. So when I check this, see how this data moved right in the center horizontally. Similarly, if I check this, it will move vertically. To tweak these two checkboxes from VBA, you can use the page setup.center horizontally and page setup.center vertically property. Depending on which you set to true, the sheet is centered horizontally or vertically on the page when it is printed. I've unchecked both of them. Let's tweak this from VBA. I'm going to uncomment these two. So one is false, one is true. When I run this, the horizontally is false and vertically is true. Let's check. There you go. The first one is false, the second one is true. Now let's make the first one true and second one false. See, now horizontally is true and vertically is false. I'm going to uncheck this. Moving on to the next tab, which is header and footer. We will first visually understand about the header and footer section before jumping into the code. A header is the top margin of a page and footer is the bottom margin of a page. Here we can see the header section and here is the footer section. There are 3 regions in header and 3 regions in footer. To access them, you can click on custom header or custom footer. So let's click on custom header. In these 3 sections, you can insert some text, page number, number of pages and other options which are available here. Similarly, you can do the same settings for footer as well. You also have 4 checkboxes. The first one is different odd and even pages. This option lets you specify different headers and footers for odd and even pages. Right now, if I click on custom header, you will notice there is only one header tab. Okay. But if I click on different odd and even pages, if you go to custom header, you will notice that now you have 2 tabs, odd page header and even page header. So whatever header you set, it will depend on these 2 tabs. So if you have set the odd page header, then this header will be shown in odd pages like 1, 3, 5, 7. And the header which you set here will be shown in pages which are even 2, 4, 6, 8 and so on. The second checkbox is different first page. I'm going to uncheck this. If you do not want to display the header and footer on the first page, then you can use this option. The third checkbox is scale with document. Check this box if the header and footer should be scaled with the document when the size of the document changes. The fourth checkbox is align with page margins. If you do not want the left and right margins of the header and footers to align with the left and right margins of the worksheet, then check this box. And if you want to set the left and right margins of the headers and footers to a specific value that is independent of the left and right margins of the worksheet, then uncheck this. What I'll do is later in the video, when I'm demonstrating how to tweak this, I will visually show the effects it has on the header and footer. Now let's go back and let's check the code in the 4th module. Here I have a procedure called insert header footer. Here I have declared the headers and footers using text and control codes. You see these text with ampersand sign? These are control codes. I've put all these codes in the control codes worksheet as well. So if I go back, these are the codes that I have kept here. So you can use these while experimenting with that piece of code. Let me explain a couple of them. In this line, there is no code. This is the name of the company which will be displayed in the left section of the header. In this line, I'm displaying the name of the worksheet using control code ampersand A in the center header. In this line, I'm displaying the name of the workbook using control code ampersand F in the right header. You will also notice I have used 2 extra codes, which is ampersand B and ampersand I. This is to make the name text bold and in italics. Similarly, I'm showing the path of this workbook, date on which this is printed, and page number in the footer. Let's run this. Let's go to the worksheet. Now, one important thing, depending upon the view that you have, you may or may not see the header and footers. The header and footers are displayed only in the page layout view, print preview, or in printed pages. So let's go to the view tab, which is here, and then let's select the page layout. And boom, we can see all the information that we want. Here, of course, the header and footer information and the data is all mixed up because of the margins. We will fix that shortly. So this is how you insert headers and footers. Now let's go back and let's fix our header and footer margins. We'll make this 0.5 and let's change it to centimeter to points. Let's also set this to false. And let's run this. Let's go back. There you go. We have our header on top. Now let's try and tweak these 4 checkboxes. Let's go back to the code. Let's go back to the 4th module. Here I have a procedure called sub tweak checkboxes. The first checkbox that we will tweak is different odd and even pages. If you remember, I showed you that once you check this option and you click on custom header or custom footer, then you get these 2 tabs. So we will have to tweak those header here. For demonstrating this, what I will do is I'll show the headers in the odd pages and footer in even pages. In this section, I'm working with the odd page header. This is the same as the above code. Here I'm keeping the even page header as blank because I do not want to show anything in the headers. In this section, I'm working with the odd page footer. Here I'm keeping the odd page footer blank because I do not want to show anything in there. And here I'm setting the even page footer. Now for this to work, we will have to check the box different odd and even pages via code. For that, what I will do is I'll uncomment this line. And I'll set this to true. Let's run this. Let's go to the worksheet. And now the headers and footers, they appear in odd and even pages. You can see the header on the first page because that's odd. In the second page, you will not see a header, but if you scroll down, you will see a footer. The next setting that we will handle is different first page. So if you go here, this is the second checkbox, different first page. Okay, let's go back to the code and I'm going to uncomment this line and I'll set this to true. Now when I run this, the first page will not have the header. Let's run this and then I'll explain it a bit more from the worksheet. So I'm going to run this now. Let's go to the worksheet and you will see that there is no header in sheet 1. There's no header in sheet 2 as well. That is because the first checkbox, different odd and even page, is also checked. But I will see a footer. It's there. Now, if I go to the third page, see if you go to the third page, there is nothing here. But the moment I click on this cell, see what happens. The headers, they appear. This is the third page and hence the header appeared here. Moving on to the third setting, which is scale with document, which is this setting, scale with document. So let's go back to the code. Let's move to the beginning of the worksheet first, and then let's go back to the code. Perfect. And let's uncomment this. Let's set this to true. I have set this to true because I do want the header and footer to be scaled with the document when the size of the document changes. If you do not want the scaling to happen, then set this to false. The last setting is align with page margins. This is the same property which I mentioned in the previous module. So if you go back to set margins, you see this particular line. I had commented this and I had mentioned that I will talk about it later. So it is the same property here. Let's uncomment the last line. The page setup.align margins header footer property returns true for Excel to align the header and footer with the margins set in the page setup options. I want the left and right margins of the headers and footers to align with the left and right margins of the worksheet, so I have set this to true. When I run this code, this will align the header and footer with the general right and left page margins. Before I run this, what I will do is I will set all of these properties to false. And the reason is because if I have odd and even pages header footer or different first page header footer true, then you will not see the headers in the first page. Okay, I'll also set this to false and this as well. Let me first run this. Okay, now let's go to the worksheet for a moment. Do you see the headers have now reappeared in sheet 1? I want you to notice where they are placed. Look at Tame Excel. Look at this space. Similarly, look at name book 1. Look at this space. Now let's go back to the code. Now I'm going to change this to true and I'm going to run the code. Let's go back to the worksheet. Now notice how Tame Excel and the name book 1 has been aligned. So remember, you can use this property to align the header and the footer with the margins set in the page setup options. Okay, moving on to the last tab, which is sheet. We have already covered everything from here. At the beginning of the video, I briefly mentioned about print area. When you print, Excel prints everything that is there in the print area. In a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, the print area is a designated part of the spreadsheet to be printed. In this tab, the first section is print area. Here you can set and clear print areas. You can set the print area, which is nothing but the area that you want to print. To set the print area, you can use the page setup.printArea property. This property returns or sets the range to be printed as a string using A1 style references in the language of the macro. The syntax is expression.printArea, where the expression represents a page setup object. Let's go to second module for a moment. Now when you run this procedure, see what happens. You can now clearly see what Excel will print. This is the print area. Let's say you do not want to print the entire worksheet, but say only cells from A1 to B15. Let me go back to the worksheet first. So I want from A1 to B15. I only want this area to be printed and not the entire worksheet. To achieve this, you can set the print area. Now let's go to the fifth module. Here I have declared my worksheet variable and I have set it to sheet 1. In this line, I'm setting the print area from A1 to B15. And to see if the print area has been set, I will use the .print preview. Let's run this. See, now the entire worksheet is not displayed here, only the cells from A1 to B15. So this is how you set the print area. To clear the print area, simply pass an empty string. So if I do this and if I run this code, see what happens. Now Excel has reset the print area. Now the entire worksheet will be printed. The next setting that we will cover is print titles, which is this particular section. There are times when you want to print rows repeatedly at the top of each page. That is the time you can use the page setup.printTitleRows property. This property returns or sets the rows that contain the cells to be repeated at the top of each page. These rows are passed as a string in A1 style notation in the language of the macro. Let's go to the worksheet titles row demo data. This is the worksheet. Here I have some demo data. The row 1 has headers and below that I have 50 records of employees. Let's go to the next procedure in that module, which is set print titles. Here I have declared my worksheet variable and I have set it to sheet 2, which is titles row demo data. Here I'm calling the .print preview to check what data will be printed. Let's run this. In the first page, you can see that the headers are present. But if you go to the second page, you can see that there are no headers. What if I wanted the headers to appear on all the sheets that are getting printed? In such a case, I will use the PageSetup.printTitleRows property. Let's say I want the headers from row 1 to be repeated on every page. So what I will do is, I'll go back and I'll change the code here. I will type .pageSetup.printTitleRows is equal to $1, which is the address of row 1. Now let's run this code again. See what happens. The first page has a header. Okay. Let's see the second page. See, now the header has appeared in the second page as well. Just like you can print data to be repeated at the top of each page, you can also print data to be repeated at the left of each page. For that, you have to use the PageSetup.printTitleColumns property. This property returns or sets the columns that contain the cells to be repeated on the left side of each page as a string, again in A1 style notation in the language of the macro. Let's check out the worksheet. Titles column demo data. Here again I have some demo data. On the left I have employee names and on the right I have month-on-month sales. Let's say I want the cells from column A to be repeated on each page. So let's go back and let's change the code. So I'm going to comment this and I'm going to type .pageSetup.printTitleColumns is equal to $A, which is the address of the first column. Also, we will change this to sheet 3. Now let's run this. So we can see the employee on the first column. Let's go to the second page. There you go. See, the employee column is also present in the second page. And if you go to the third page, the column is repeated there as well. One important thing that you should always remember is that you should always specify full rows or full columns as title rows or columns. And if you specify incomplete rows or columns, then Excel automatically expands the range to cover the full row or column. To reset the print title rows and the print title columns, simply set these properties to false or an empty string. This will turn off the title rows and title columns. So what I can do is, if I type this, this will reset the print title columns. So if I run this, the first page will have the column, but the second page will not have the column. See? So remember, to reset them, simply pass an empty string or set them to false. Time for a quick recap. In this video, we learned how to tweak the margins, how to interact with the header and footer, how to work with the print area, and different aspects of page setup. So I hope it was easy to understand, but if you still have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Or you can also email me on support@tamexcel.com. I also have a Facebook page. The link is in the description below. Feel free to join that. And if you have any questions, please post it there. I'll be more than happy to answer your queries. If you like the kind of content that I'm putting up on this channel, then go ahead, watch a couple of videos, drop a couple of likes. And if you're really serious about learning Visual Basic Programming from scratch, then see the videos in the playlist. Watch that playlist because that is where I have put the topics in a specific sequence. So watch them, drop a couple of likes there as well. And if you still have not subscribed to this channel, then go ahead and subscribe to this channel by clicking on the bell icon. And I'll see you in the next video, which is the final video of this 3-video series, which is page setup and printing in Microsoft Excel VBA.